This is the thing. Who you choose to hang around with, who you choose to have in your posse is exactly who you become. Choose your posse wisely. I'm here to tell you that putting yourself first is not selfish, it's revolutionary. Welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast, empowering women to light their lives on fire through Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and fitness. Jai Bhagwan, Women Warriors, and welcome to the Women Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Satyavani, and we're back. And the newly released, retired, fantastic co-host,
Prajna Mandavi. Hello, everyone. I'm out. Finally out.
She's free.
Yes.
She is free from the schoolyard and out on the loose now. Mm-hmm. So good. How's that feel?
It feels really nice. It was nice that I was doing it summertime because everybody gets let out in the summer. Everybody's excited to be let out for the summer.
Everybody's released.
Yeah. When it comes August is when it's really, because
hasn't hit you yet.
Those of you who are teachers out there, when the back to school commercials start showing up on the TV, there's this sense of dread.
Which is like July.
That comes up in teachers, and then excitement that comes up in parents.
That transition in energy.
Yes. So not having to deal with that in August is going to be really nice.
So great.
And I mean, even just yesterday, the fact that we were just drinking kombucha and working on our computers in the afternoon and how that was work like that.
Isn't that great?
It's so nice.
So great.
Yeah.
All about the booch and work.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep.
Good times.
Collaboration. It's awesome.
So great.
So,
well, friends, today we have, we're moving into the mental emotional kosha. We did our Annamaya kosha, all of the physical body stuff on podcasts about that. And then we did the energy body, the pranamaya kosha. And now we're moving into the manomaya kosha, which is the mental emotional body. And today we're actually going to talk about nutrition, which may seem Annamaya kosha or pranamaya kosha-esque, which it is, but also sort of the mental game that goes along with food, because I think especially for women, there are more women than not that have interesting relationships with food. I can definitely attest to that over the course of my career. Some of those things. So we're going to address that and also talk about it from a constitution standpoint. I remember when I was dealing with a lot of mental, emotional stuff and food and disordered eating and body dysmorphia and eating disorders and all of that stuff for a decent portion of my life, which I write about in my book. And knowing that there was something that I was missing.
yeah.
And when I finally came to Ayurveda and it was explained to me by an Ayurvedic doctor, a Vaidya, that the reason why you are voraciously hungry all the time is because of your constitution type. And I'll go into more detail about that. We can share our stories regarding food and relationship. But as a brief snapshot, I remember really feeling a lot of shame around that because we grew up in the Kate Moss era.
Yeah.
And what was defined as beautiful and also the high carb, low protein, low fat era of life. So we're going to blend today the mental, emotional body, its relationship to food and constitution, as well as maybe along the way banishing some myths about food, et cetera. So nice. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good discussion. But we have some announcements that the great Praj is going to update all of us on. So what we got, girl?
So we have mentioned Trainerize, which is our personalized app. So with the Trainerize, you have the workouts that you can get. So if you want to join us online through the app, we can give you 1, 2, 3 workouts a week. And we can cater it to, again, the whole focus of what we do is we cater it to your dosha type. We cater it to what you need, what your goals are. We have just added now a nutrition piece to that, which is
I'm
awesome.
so excited about.
And it is the same kind of thing. Like it is based off of we do a dosha intake where we figure out what your dosha is. We just worked on this with a list of, okay, Vatas, Pittas, and Kappas, this is what they need. This is what they need to avoid.
Yep.
And once you get some of these recipes, like it is just amazing how well it is set up.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And it gives you the macros. Mm-hmm. So I think, as you were saying, what makes us very different is not only is it customized to the person's constitution, doshic type, but also it blends the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and modern fitness.
Yeah.
Which I think is a language that hasn't really been translated a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited because I loved seeing the macros and also knowing that this fits my constitution type.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And there's so many recipes that are like under 30 minutes. So it also gives you time, how long it's going to take. If you don't like that recipe for the day, you can refresh it and get a new one. It's amazing.
Yes.
Like it's so cool.
Right. We have like half a dozen people in it already.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting that are kind of test piloting it and all that. So it's fun.
Yeah. So cool. And then the second thing is we are doing training at Fit Body Bootcamp.
Yes, we are.
So the owner of Fit Body Bootcamp has graciously allowed us to start training there. And so if you need a spot, it is probably closer to the Meridian side.
Yep, Meridian and Eagle.
Yeah, Meridian Eagle area. So those of you in that area, hit us up for personal training because it is a fabulous facility.
Yes.
It's got kettlebells, bars. It's got TRX, whole complex.
Assault bikes, sleds.
Assault bikes, yeah.
A lot of functional fitness stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's your jam and that's what you're looking towards, that is a great place to train. So,
Totally. And we have a great group of coaches as well. It's not just the two of us, but also,
Yep. And then talk a little bit about our Planet Fitness, which is the other place that we can train out of here more on the Boise side. Planet Fitness in our area is going over a renovation. And so
I am so excited for the renovation.
I'm excited to see
Planet Fitness as a company is finally catching up.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. So I've
been a fan.
Things are shifting. Yeah. Things are shifting from heavy cardio, and they're starting to say, okay, like the hybrid events are kind of where people want. People want more weightlifting, and so they're going to take out a lot of the cardio equipment and
also upgrade some of the cardio equipment to newer things.
Yeah,
which is exciting.
And get in some assault bikes and some more Smith machines and stuff like that, so that people can, because there's only 4 in there, and
4 is not enough.
You got the people who like to sit on their phone for 5 minutes in between sets.
And if you are a glute thruster and then scroll on your phone for 20 minutes.
We have words.
There are things we have to express.
We have words for you.
Stop.
You can't do the booty hump and then be on your phone for 5 minutes.
The booty hump is the truth. It's
not that we don't do it.
No, it's an effective exercise, but like, dude, when you're doing
the only exercise you do.
Yes, it should not be the only. And also, get off your damn phone. Stop. Just don't do that. Okay?
And I'd really like to see, we're talking about mental, emotional today, but I'd really like to see the shift in the gym where people talk to each other again.
Yes.
People are so in their own little worlds. It's, again, it's connection that we talk about all the time. It's really hard to connect with people when they're just either on their phone or got their earbuds in and just, I mean, I get you want to be focused, but you can still be focused without, I don't know, being on your phone.
I agree. Well, and the other part of it also is I actually think people crave community because when you and I and Holly are there and like we talk to people, like they love it.
Yeah. It's fun.
I actually had this young gentleman, Holly and I were training on one side, you were on the other over the weekend. And I had this young gentleman who I was doing.
He was asking you questions.
Yeah, I was asking back. He was doing back rows with like 50-pound dumbbell. And he was asking me, you know, what's the difference between doing the back row with a single dumbbell versus 2? And so I was explaining that. And it was just, you know, he was a young kid and it was cool. Yeah. I was so happy that he actually like reached out and asked. He's like, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm like, ask all the questions. Like, you don't get better unless you ask. And it was cool that he saw something he wanted to know and then asked about it. And so I really think more people want that.
Yeah.
And so,
and the gym is a place to do it and have fitness involved as well.
Absolutely. And good community. It's awesome. So those are it.
Yeah.
Those are the announcements. This is exciting. So, as a review, Trainer Eyes app now has a nutrition component to it. You can get on it from anywhere in the world, which we're very excited about. So if you have friends, spread the word. And you can find the link to it on our website, thewomanwarrioracademy.com, or if you follow us on Instagram, Woman Warrior Academy, we have a link in the bio.
We have one more thing too, that we're getting the dosha quiz put on as well.
Yes.
So we got to make sure we...
Go ahead.
Yeah, so our Bill, web designer, who I finally got to meet.
He's a legend.
He does look like Shia LaBeouf.
Doesn't he look like Shia LaBeouf? He totally does. He always used to say, he's like, I wish I had his money.
I know.
Now, Bill is a legend.
Yeah. So he is creating for us the intake form, the dosha quiz, and it's putting it on our website so you can easily access it and just take the quiz and get your results, and easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. So
it's funny, the dosha constitution quiz used to be like a big thing when Ayurveda first hit the scene, and then like it's just dropped off the face of the earth. And I will admit that I've never been a dosha quiz fan because it's not explained well.
Yeah.
I think people are like, oh, this is what I am. This is the only thing that I am.
And there are no tools given after. No. Like, this is what you are. Great.
Great. So what does that mean? Yeah. Exactly. So I think we're taking it one step further with offering some other things as a result of that. So great. Thank you for reminding everybody.
And then training at Fit Body Boot Camp.
Yep.
Reach out to us.
Yep. Planet Fitness, we're there too. And during the time that they are doing the renovation, which is about a 10-day break in early June, we will be at the one at Milwaukee in Boise. So if you're local and gals, you're looking to get all jacked up, jacked and tan.
Jacked and tan. That's the summer.
That's the summer motto, jacked and tan. If you're ready for that, then come see us.
Yeah.
All right. Wellness check-in.
Yeah.
Let's do the thing.
Okay.
So I want you to give me all of the check-ins.
All the check-ins.
Yep. Physical, energetic, mental, emotional, cultivating your intuition, which I think is high on the list right now, and spiritual. Where you at, girl?
The physical, feeling very strong. So feeling very strong, feeling like I'm on the right path with what I'm doing in the gym. And digestion is decent. It's amazing what getting out of school do for your digestion.
I find it interesting that high school teaching is tied to constipation.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah. Shocker.
Weird. Fluorescent lighting. Yeah. No drinking water.
Bad HVAC.
Yeah.
Standing on horrible floors.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah, my knee hasn't, since I've been taking I'm taking BPC 157, and that has really made my knees feel quite a bit better.
Game changer.
Until I run and do a Murph or something like that.
Or something like that.
Yeah, which I did just do over the weekend. Did the Murph, like a lot of other people, but that was
You Murphed, I went to a massage.
Yep.
Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's okay. You work out enough. On the energetic level, again, energy is pretty good. Just feeling like a whole different energy.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
It's just, summers before, I would always feel like...
Did you feel like you had a time restriction?
Yes. Time restriction. I got to get all my stuff done. Like I try to get all of my window wash and
gardening,
deck and gardening and all of that stuff. Like I got to get that done within the first 2 weeks of summer because I want to enjoy
and
the rest
running
of my
out of
summer.
time.
And then by July 4th, you're like, shit, it's halfway over already and it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming and it's gearing up. So yeah, just much more relaxed. And the one thing that and this also is on mental emotional, is coming up with a routine. Like that's going to be coming up with a new routine.
That's the new challenge.
As a Vata, I do need my routine. And so
critical.
Coming up with a good routine that I now implement my work hours and my workout hours and my client hours and figuring that out. Mm-hmm. That's going to be something on my to-do list as things come in. So
Love it.
yeah. And then mental, emotional, just feeling mentally and emotionally pretty steady right now. Things are pretty clear with the direction that I want to go. And, you know, like you keep saying, this summer's going to be super fun. And
We're already having a great summer.
we're already having a great time.
It's not even summer yet. It's
2 days
technically
in.
late spring.
2 days in and just already having a great time. Intuition, that's been definitely, that's been a big part for me.
Are we going to just leave it at that? Or
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about what I said last time. And intuitively that kind of all shifted. But I was still listening to my intuition.
Yes.
And it was right. And as soon as that, it was like a switch that got flipped in that situation.
Yep.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, this is it. And just standing my ground and knowing that that's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And just feeling that in my gut, that was nice. So
I'm proud of you.
yeah,
That's huge.
because it's something that I would not have done years ago.
And
would have
that's
done something different.
That's the important thing to recognize.
Yeah.
When we actually change a pattern, like we can talk about changing patterns all that we want, but if we actually don't change the pattern, then nothing changes.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people will say, well, you know, I want to go with my gut about something, but then, you know, the brain hijacks the situation like we talk about all the time. And I do the same thing that I always did, not because I felt like that was the right decision, but rather because it was familiar. And people will take familiarity over going with their gut.
Maybe being uncomfortable.
Bingo.
Yeah.
90% of the time. Because if it's familiar to me, I know what the outcome is going to be, or I believe I know what the outcome is going to be, versus I'm going to go with my gut and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, even though my gut I know is right, but I'm going to convince myself that my brain is right and my gut isn't. So you have this like dynamic all the time. So like you went with your gut, you executed, you changed the pattern, now you know.
Yeah.
And the only way that we actually ever know is when we change the pattern and make a different decision and get the results of that decision.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, boom, it's embedded. This gut instinct was right.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important. And that's a huge part of the mental emotional influence.
Yeah. And then spiritually, I've been a little bit better. I mean, having our Acharya retreat just really brought that up for me.
So
That
good.
I just was lacking that spiritual connection. And that Acharya retreat was so beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
those gals are getting ready to fly high.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So that was really great.
So our Acharya retreat, as an FYI, is these gals did 3 years of study with us in the Vedic sciences, and it culminated in their graduation and their initiation into the lineage. Their names changed, which were all beautiful names.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. They receive a Sanskrit name, and it's not like 1-900, I want a Sanskrit name, but rather a lot of thought went into that process. And they then move on to teach from their life's curriculum so that these teachings can continue to go out, which is really kind of cool. So I'm excited for that.
And all three of them were just so honored and
And humble and glowing and amazing. And
yeah.
We were lucky. It was a good group.
So what about you? Wellness check-in.
So good. So on the physical side of things, I was saying this to our massage therapist, Jessie, that I have backed off to gain.
Yeah.
Which has been so good. And it was funny because we had this conversation. He was like, you know, in the early part of March, when you said that you were going to go through a cutting phase, it didn't make any sense to me. Because, you know, as you know, he's also a trainer and a massage therapist. So like, as I've said to him
Wise
before,
man.
very wise. As I've said to him actually this past week, and I'm like, you realize you're a fucking unicorn. Like, And he was like, oh, you're so sweet. I'm like, no, it's actually pretty true, because he can see both sides of it, the recovery side as well as the training side.
Yeah.
And as he works with athletes, it's, it makes perfect sense. So, he said it didn't make sense. He's like, but I was letting it play out because I knew that you would eventually get it. He's like, you're an athlete. He's like, you don't need to cut, really. Like, he's like, yeah, if you want to, take off a couple of percentage of body fat, he's like, you can do that in a matter of weeks, which is
Just
actually
don't eat for a day.
Right. You don't have to eat for a day. My situation is a little different.
I know.
I have to fight.
When are you going to starve?
I got to fight the food demon. I'm like, I'm starving here. You're just like, yeah, I ate. I'm like, oh, you Vatas. I just don't get it. We are not the same.
No.
But he's like, you can cut body fat very quickly and you can rack on muscle very quickly. And so he's like, use that to your advantage. And he's right.
Yeah.
And he's right. And so actually I feel a lot better because I decided to focus more on recovery and also more on sleep as part of that recovery. Because what I did notice, and I did say this to him, is that when I was getting into very, very close and probably dipping a toe into overtraining, my cortisol levels were getting higher and I was getting irritable.
Yeah.
And one thing pittas don't need is frustration. We're really good at that. But I noticed that was happening. So I backed off and I feel a whole lot better. Yeah. Got back into sadhana, like jumping over to the spiritual side, got back into sadhana practice and have been doing that in the mornings now before anything, like doing a Kripalu sadhana and then following that up with a nidra. And that's just been setting the tone for my day.
Nice.
And then go and, lift or do the hybrid stuff or, teach hot yoga or whatever. And that's been a game changer. Yeah. And energetically, that feeds right into it. I just feel energetically better, happier. Because I noticed that like things were getting a little dark there. Yeah. And I was getting into that mental emotional space of like, some old tapes of like, you're not training hard enough or, why isn't this going away, et cetera. And, and you've been there with like, girl, you got to slow the flame and pull it back. And I actually had this like intuitive sense of where am I going?
Yeah.
Like I got all the time in the world. Like, why am I on this ridiculous arbitrary timeline in my head? And that's created some shifts in terms of like my own personal schedule. When I want to train clients, spreading it out a little bit more. And also having my own time, which has been great. And then, the spiritual connection, just like you said, the Acharya retreat was fantastic. And I feel reconnected to the lineage again, which I think one of the things that we chatted about over the weekend that you brought up when we were teaching with the gals was if you put your spirituality first, everything else falls into place. Yeah. So going to the top of the koshic layer, putting that at the forefront, then allows for everything else down to the physical body to fall into place. And I tested that hypothesis and it has proven to be true. Yeah. So psyched. And summer's going to kick so much ass. Yeah. So I'm excited. It's been a bummer because Michael's been away for 3 weeks. I mean, he's in his own space doing his silent retreat, cultivating his spirituality, which has been fantastic. So I haven't really bothered with him that much, but we're dirty and starving at home. Yeah. Yep. So
he's so hungry.
We're hungry because he feeds us and the house is dirty, but it's clean now because I did get a cleaning crew in
And you
there.
learned about the protein spot, which is going to help you.
Right, right. The protein spot in Boise. Do you want to give a quick update
quick
on
shout
that?
out to them. They're a new, they have 2 locations. They have one on Overland.
One on Overland.
Towards Meridian, and then one down on Broadway across kitty corner to Albertsons.
Yep.
By
Across
BSU.
from BSU.
Yeah. And they are it's good food. It's high protein. They've got, things that you can order from a menu. And then they have this fridge section where you can get your meals for the week.
Word.
And I actually
They got
tried
shakes and smoothies too.
Yeah. And I tried one of their little protein
Oh, did you?
balls last night.
Yeah. Was it good?
So good.
Oh, dude, we got to go down there and get some. All right, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Well, a friend
stuff.
told us about it, so which was great.
Yeah.
Like all about that.
It's awesome.
So, yeah, so I have a feeling that's going to be a very popular space. And the thing that we notice is that everybody,
They're all jacked.
everybody who walks in there is all jacked up. Everybody's like
wow.
jacked and tan. I'm like, damn, everybody's fit in here. I got to get my game on. I'm telling you, it was great.
Need more protein.
Which brings us to our nutrition for the
Yes.
doshas. So, why don't you open up? You wanted to talk a little bit about the HBC challenge that we're doing.
What got me thinking about this and the direction that we wanted to head was the story that you had, or the story about the HBC. So Sat is the head of one of the teams in our HBC challenge. Jesse's on the other team or leading the other team. They're one and one right now.
1-on-1.
So 1-on-1.
Coming for you, Jesse.
Yeah. And the challengers were putting in the chat because they were having to track their food this last week.
Yep.
And they were putting in the chat just some, I would say, anxiety about tracking their food.
Absolutely.
And
in different forms. It was interesting.
Yeah. And so Satyavani, being the wise woman that she is, she put a video in about the challenges that they were having. And what I really liked about it and brought me back to doing this is always thinking not good, bad, anything, but isn't that interesting?
Yes.
And so you said in the video that, you know, you've got this anxiety over food for whatever reason. Don't frame it as to getting worried about it or that anxiety. Just notice it. Ask the question, isn't that interesting? And if you keep doing that, you kind of come to the answer as to why that might be happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I'm all about the isn't that interesting? Because I think we, especially as it relates to food and culture, you know, here, especially in the United States, that we kind of eat on autopilot. We grab what is convenient, and then we get a certain set of results, and then we stay in that cycle. And I find that when you ask that question or you put into that inquiry of, isn't that interesting? That opens the door to really start to examine like patterns of behavior. The reality is that nutrition and food from an Ayurvedic perspective is doshically and constitutionally tied. And at the same time, the first line of medicine.
yeah.
Whenever we are working with people who are having digestive issues or inflammatory issues or whatever issues.
And most issues are one of those things.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're metabolic, they're digestive, you know, one of those two categories for the most part. And when we start to work with people and then we get the story, we get the deep dive into what's happening with them, and we have them map out their food, 9 chances out of 10, I can pick out what is happening just from the person's diet. Because the person's diet will often feed the illness, you know, or the dis-ease or the imbalance.
I look at me as an example,
Yes.
and that leads us right into Vata nutrition.
Yes.
I came into your office, I'm like, I have thyroid issues.
Really?
Just got hypothyroidism. And you're like, well, okay. So you go through the whole thing and like, so what do you eat? I'm just like,
Or do you eat?
and we were just going through the menu yesterday of, you know, our little cheat sheet as to what Vatas should and shouldn't eat. We talked about like the nuts.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
And
well,
you were like a squirrel.
I was a squirrel. Yeah.
Like, you're like, I eat nuts. I'm like, girlfriend, like, no.
a cup full of trail mix, like for
Right.
lunch every single day. And you're just like, yeah, that's going to be a big problem.
It's true. It's true. But you can identify very easily what's going on with somebody based on their diet because the disease will match the diet 9 chances out of 10.
Yeah.
And to be clear, it's not like, I think we have come to the space in our culture of these are good foods, these are bad foods. And there have been these campaigns over
Low fat,
decades. Right.
low carb.
There's been these campaigns over decades of this food has been demonized. Like, remember back in the day, it's like, don't eat potatoes.
Yeah.
Like, right. Or, everything's seed oil.
Don't eat red meat.
Right.
Like,
don't eat red meat. And
don't
from
eat eggs.
Right. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, we see all food as medicine. It all serves a purpose. Is Ayurvedic and Vedic food by default vegetarian in nature? Yes. But it does not exclude non-vegetarian items, because non-vegetarian items will often serve a purpose. If somebody is majorly depleted, they are lacking ojas, they are lacking immunity, they are having constipation issues, very tired, very fatigued, we will recommend like meat soup, because you need that protein boost. You need that foundational sets of food to actually nourish all of the tissues of the body. So food is always the first line of defense. Anytime I do a clinical, there is always food recommendations at the top of the list. I mean, there's always sleep, like, are you sleeping? But since we are focused on food for the purposes of this podcast, food is at the top of the list. And looking at, okay, what is the person's constitution type? What are the imbalanced tendencies? And what are the foods that will counter those imbalances? So we know from a Vata standpoint that Vatas are naturally thin, dry, and cold. Okay, like those are the qualities that we see in imbalance with Vata constitution types. It will show up in a variety of different fashion, but when we look at the qualities, it's cold, dry, and as a result of that, we need to implement qualities that are the opposite of that to maintain the equilibrium.
And I would say for me, and just a little bit of, I don't know many women who haven't had some sort of disordered eating in some of their history. But for me, when I was a teenager, and I think I would even go beyond that, I mean, that was something that I think dealt with was, I ate, at one point I ate too much. So I was doing the whole, I eat this much and then I have to go exercise all of that off and get rid of all of that.
Yeah. So burning 1,500 calories, you know what that's like?
Yeah.
That's very hard.
Yeah. But then I just wouldn't eat that much. So then I'd, make sure that I balance that out, which is terrible for Vata, because that's going to make you constipated and
dry and brittle.
Yeah. And then as I got older, I think it was a lot of that, just digestive issues that made me want to eat less.
Yes.
Because I just hated that feeling in my stomach.
Right.
Whether it be bloating or constipation, I'm like, when actually I just needed to eat warm food and eat more.
Yes.
So that it would keep my Agni going.
Yep.
Which these are all things that I've learned. And when I go off of that, I'm very aware that I'm like, oh shit.
I be eating dry.
Yeah. I'm eating dry foods and I'm not eating enough, and I'm not like, my Agni is going out, and that's why I'm having these issues. I don't need to eat less. Right. I just need to change what I'm eating. Right. And eat more. Yeah. Eat at better times.
Vatas actually need to eat. Like their issue is they don't eat. And
I think because of their digestion.
Right. Like when you eat foods that aggravate the situation, then you're like, you do what you did, you get what you got. Yeah. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. I'm eating dry and cold foods, which you should not as a Vata, because you are mostly air and ether. You're already cold and dry by sheer constitution type. And if you continue to feed that with cold, dry foods, you're just going to enhance the aggravation inside your digestive system. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, see, I don't do well when I eat.
Better not eat then.
Better not eat. And then you don't eat, and then you're like a skeleton with black circles under your eyes in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like that's how quickly it happens for Vatas. So Vatas, they need to favor foods that are warm, warm and juicy, warm and lubricated, moist.
Yeah.
And foods that are grounding, that are nourishing, that are stabilizing. Because Vatas are in the ether, like we got to land the plane, y'all.
Yep. And if you're thinking, I got to eat whole foods, I'm like, no, you just you put the whole foods in a soup,
Right.
and eat it.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
It doesn't mean you go eat cauliflower and broccoli, which are two of some of the worst things you can
Like
eat.
literally. And y'all love that stuff.
I know.
I'm going to eat carrots,
gonna eat this-
cauliflower, broccoli.
This vegetable plate, I'm like, oh God.
Stop.
Unless you're dipping it in some sort of bone broth and eating it.
Or letting it simmer in bone broth.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So like you have to be careful with things like cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, like raw dry foods. So like the celery stick carrot thing that went on in the 70s and the 80s and even in the 90s, like no, dude, no. You have to have, like, you do better when you eat red meat.
I do.
That's just
Beef
how
is
it
kind
is.
of the top.
That you got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you do very well with it when it's in warm, you know, like in a stew or if you saute it or whatever it is that you do. So,
Yep.
so you got to go for moist and oily foods. You need the lubrication. They got to be warm. You got to warm yourself up. And there are a variety of different options with that. Some beneficial foods for Vata. On the sweet taste side, I'll just give you a little snapshot of what we have put together. Favoring naturally sweet foods like fruits, most grains. You guys are okay with grains, and eggs and lean meat.
Yeah.
Lean meat is actually considered a sweet food, believe it or not.
Because we need protein too.
Yes, you do.
Vatas need probably the most protein
Yes, you
out
do.
of any of them.
However, emphasizing sweet taste does not mean you should have refined sugar,
Yeah.
which is a very different thing, or sugary sweet foods, you know, like all that artificially incentivized food. Like, no, because that's going to lead to a crash. And let's see what else.
And that's the hard part too. When you say fruits, I mean, a lot of fruits are cold. So,
Yes, right.
You got to find a way to, like, I put apples and blueberries like in a.
Right.
So if I have a salad, I put it in a skillet and I warm it up
Right.
for like 2-3 minutes.
Absolutely.
To get the lettuce a little bit softer, and
Yep.
then I can put apples or blueberries in it, and then they're warm.
Right.
So-
And putting like olive oil on it will help you warm that up. The other thing is also baking your fruit, like
Yeah.
baked pears, baked apples.
cobbler.
Peach. Oh my God. Her peach tree is going to pop this year
Yes.
and eaten all the cobblers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So absolutely focusing on foods that are warm and definitely some sweet taste. So things that you want to avoid are, you know, raw, rough,
Cauliflower.
cold, bitter foods, because bitter foods tend to be catabolic in nature. And so when they're catabolic, it's very aggravating to Vata.
Give me an example of a.
So I would say bitter greens,
Okay.
you know,
Arugula.
kale,
Okay.
dandelion, collard greens, Jerusalem artichokes, you know, things like that. Those are tough.
There's a reason why I don't like those then.
Yep. Exactly.
Intuition.
You already know. There's your intuition. So the focus for Vatas is warm, moist, sweet, naturally sweet, not refined sugar, and like
None of them will have refined sugar in them, by the way.
right,
Yeah.
and grounding
Yeah.
foods that are, you know, like you do beef and all of that kind of stuff. So that's super helpful. And on the nutrition app side of life, we have all of that programmed. Like you can take the thinking out of it.
Yeah.
We will provide for you the menus that are Vata balancing, and it's a 2-sheet that has all the categories of foods. And this is for Pitta and Kapha as well. We provide all of the categories of foods, and then within those categories, examples of what you can have an abundance of, what you can have occasionally, and then what you should probably avoid.
Yeah.
So, and it's actually fascinating because when people start to see that, they're like, oh my God, I've been eating this my whole life and no wonder. And like literally when we're looking at maximizing muscle, when we're looking at maximizing digestion, which is always a primary in Ayurveda, when we're looking at maximizing that, sometimes it's just a matter of taking one or two foods out of the diet.
Yeah.
And things shift majorly. So
Trail mix.
yeah, trail mix, no trail mix. That's it. Which leads us to Pitta. So Pitta diets, we want to, because we are naturally fiery, enhancing the fire with spicy food is not in our best interest.
Bad idea.
And one of the keys, I will tell you this, which is really, really interesting, from a Pitta constitution standpoint, and this is doshas across the board, we tend to be attracted to the things that are not good for us.
Yeah, like I was saying.
Right. Like you're on the trail mix
and raw
right.
vegetables, like perfect for me.
You're on the trail mix side of life. Pittas tend to be really attracted to spicy foods, and they are also, by default, the highest percentage of alcohol consumers. So
Inflammation.
alcohol is a huge inflammatory, quote, food. It's a liquid, but, you know, it's part of that process. And so pittas, like, alcohol is not a good sign. Like it goes down a path that is just not good.
Yeah.
So we're favoring cool foods over hot, and actually favor dry and dense foods over oily or liquidy, because even though pitta is made up of fire and water, in the ancient texts that water is technically oil.
Okay.
So we tend to turn water into more of an oily substance with the amount of fire it is that we have in our constitution. And so pitta's liquid nature and tendency toward excess oil, making drying or astringent foods like beans, potatoes, oats, pasta, popcorn, and most vegetables very supportive. So those are things that are really good. When cooking, using a moderate amount of high quality oil or ghee is okay, but we want to minimize especially heating oily foods like hard cheeses, olives, nuts, sour cream, and the like. And it's interesting because when we were going through the food list yesterday and we had like sour cream is really something that pittas should stay away from, I was like, God, that was so intuitive for me. Like anytime we've ever gone out for food and they're like, would you like salsa or sour cream with that? I'm like, no, I don't, you know, and I just naturally knew that. It's very interesting. Because pittas are sharp in terms of constitution type. We have qualities of sharpness, you know, fire cuts through things very easily. We want to favor foods that are a little bit more mild rather than sharp. So, things that are sharp in flavor, or some foods that have sharp qualities, are things like pineapple, pickles, aged cheeses. Those are things that we really want to stay away from. Whereas milder things like cucumbers, apples, lime, those kinds of things will kind of tone that stuff down. The other thing that pittas need to stay away from is caffeine. No caffeine.
So do Vatas.
Right. Yeah. Vatas do too.
Vatas gotta stay away from that too.
Ooh, it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, because you had a little bit of caffeine a couple of weeks ago because you were trying to get some heat into that digestion to move it. And how was that experience?
I was like, I'm gonna go do this, and then I'm gonna go do this, and then I gotta do this, and then I'm gonna gotta get it all done in an hour because then I'm gonna crash. Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. Just this burst of energy, but the anxiety comes with it.
It's just like Michael and I have gone to, we've traveled before. Like we've traveled a lot, but we've traveled to Europe, and there's really no concept of decaffeinated there. And so we were trying to communicate one time in Portugal that we wanted decaf coffee, and it looked like the person understood, and they clearly did not. And they brought the coffee, and literally within like 2 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I was so hot And Michael was so amped up. I'm like, this is not a good table to sit at. It was bad. It's really bad. But so pizzas, in terms of the tastes, they should emphasize foods that are sweet and that are bitter, because those help the balance. So examples of sweet are sweet fruits, most grains, squash, root vegetables, milk, ghee, and fresh yogurt. And then bitter, we're looking at things like kale, dandelion greens, and collard greens, et cetera. That's why when you and I go out and we have food together, we have two very different plates, because things like that are tough for your system, whereas for me, it's really helpful.
Not just in taste either.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Size.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When we go for breakfast,
these two things. So it's like, I want these 6. And then I'm going to have this other one later.
And
by the way, where is that pancake?
And then also, like, are you going to eat that? Are you going to eat that? Because I'll eat it.
I'm going to save these potatoes for later and put them in the car for a snack.
in the glove compartment for you. Well, it was funny even yesterday when you came over to the house and I'm like, you want something to eat? Like, I asked you that like 3 times, and I ate every time.
Yes,
and it was like, we were there for like 4 hours.
You need something to eat?
No,
I'm good.
The other thing, though, that that's good for bitter for pizzas is dark chocolate. So I'm like, yes. So, and pitta balancing spices like cumin, neem, saffron, and turmeric, because turmeric is a natural anti-inflammatory. So yeah, and we want to minimize things that are pungent in taste, meaning spicy. So, chilies and cayenne and, also like onion, stuff like that. I've never been a big onion fan. And that's what's so interesting about like living in our household, because Michael needs the heat. So he's like, give me the chilies and the onion. And I'm like, no. So we have to compromise. And also sour foods are tough for pittas. So things that are fermented, even though I love me some sauerkraut and my Polish heritage, I have to be diligent with that.
Yeah.
Because it can aggravate. So yeah. So that's the pizza side. And again, within our nutrition app, all of this is pre-programmed. You can take the thinking out of it. But you'll get the information and then it's done for you. And then finally on Kappa nutrition, Kappas need lightness in their diet because they are made up of earth and water. If that's your primary constitution type, there tends to already be a heaviness. So adding more heavy to that in the form of a diet is just going to create a deeper imbalance. So we're looking at lighter foods. And, when in general, heavy foods they also tend to be sugary. And Kappas do love themselves some sugar, so got to be careful. But things like hard cheeses, pudding, ice cream, cake, pie, wheat, bread, pasta, red meat, those things that tend to be heavy that Vatas need, minus the sugar. Kappas don't need that.
Yeah.
And again, we tend to be drawn towards the things that we shouldn't have. And so it's funny, I have a couple of clients who like really battle with ice cream, and they are Kappa in nature. They're just like, I had to have ice cream, or I had to have M&Ms or, something along those lines. And I think what it is that Kappas really love the sweetness of life. And so it comes in those forms. So we have to be really careful. We also want to favor, like Vatas, we want to favor warm foods over cool or cold for Kappa. Because they have a large water element in them, they have kind of a running coolness that can happen. Like they can be very cool to the skin. So we don't want anything cold. So they are definitely a group that, across the board, people should not be drinking ice water. It's terrible for your digestion. But we definitely want them to be more on the warm side of life. So having things like turmeric in their diet, and also like the CCF spice mix, cumin, coriander, and fennel are really good things. We want to reduce cooling, energetic foods, frozen food, no carbonated drinks, And definitely no leftovers from the fridge or the freezer. And actually, in general, we shouldn't do that. From an Ayurvedic perspective, you should always have fresh foods. Using the microwave and the deep freezer, it loses its potency, and it can do a number. Now, I understand also from a practical standpoint, people look at, hey, look, I got, family at home and I've got to go to Costco and, they bulk up, et cetera, on food and they put some things in the deep freezer. I would just minimize that, to the best of your ability. And then also because kappas have they have the earth and water elements in them, we want to favor dry foods, which is the complete opposite of Vata. Dry foods over moist and oily, because that moist and oiliness brings heaviness. So we want to minimize things like avocado and coconut and olives and buttermilk or, cheese, and want to, introduce things that are the complete opposite of that. So definitely having more dry foods like beans, potatoes, trail mix, dried fruit, rice, even popcorn if you like a treat. So that's a good thing. And then finally, definitely more, just want to look at our list here, more favoring rough foods. So they are the body constitution that can actually handle more of, I'm not advocating a raw food diet because in Ayurveda, we always cook our food so that it's pre-digested for good Agni, for good metabolism. But they can get away with having some more raw foods than the other constitution types. And so, and then versus smooth foods in texture. And smooth foods are things like bananas, rice pudding, hot cereal, that kind of stuff that brings heaviness. So we want to lighten things up as it relates to kappas. And there's actually it's very interesting. There are imbalances from a food standpoint in all of those. We know that vatas tend towards cold and dry, pittas tend towards, inflammatory stuff, and kappas tend towards metabolic disease. So we want to adjust our food and our diet to the reverse so that those things are not experienced. Yeah. And that's like the nutshell in nutrition. And the thing that's so interesting about it is that you can find your optimal diet for yourself while also layering on the macros it is that you need to hit for your fitness goals. So it's just a matter of identifying the foods that are going to have, like if you're looking to build muscle, kappas don't really need to build a whole lot of muscle. They have a lot of it there. They need to not only lower the fat
to define it.
Exactly. They need to define it and reduce it. Pittas tend to, as we talked about in our last podcast, they can rack on muscle pretty quickly. So they're kind of in that middle ground. And so it can be a moderate protein consumption.
I have a tendency to want to burn it off, though.
Exactly. So with that tendency of wanting to burn it off, sometimes you go through periods of like
sort of like what you were talking about.
Right.
I need to work out again.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't.
Do you?
Do you though? But I don't. But I want to. The mental emotional game.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, they can go for high protein times and then lower, moderate protein times. Whereas vatas, you guys need higher protein because you need to rack on muscle to support thin bones.
We also don't need to do a ton of cardio.
No, you don't. But the mental emotional game around this. So share a little bit about the mental emotional game with diet for yourself. And then I will add my own piece.
Yeah.
When I got to understand this, it was a game changer.
Yeah. Before, if I go back, all the way when I was 16, when I had that eating disorder, it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress around what I was eating. And if I ate too much and, oh my God, now I need to go exercise. And it was very stressful. My mentality was very anxious and very I was very irritable. One, because I wasn't getting enough food.
Right. You're starving to death.
Yeah.
Literally.
And so I was very emotional, up and down. My well-being was attached to how I looked and, what I'd eaten for that day. Very tightly attached to that. And so my mental and emotional state was not good. Then when I started eating again, later on in high school.
Started eating again.
Later on in high school, and that was the whole, low fat fad. And so I would eat, it's low fat, but I would eat way too much. And then I would have that, I got to go back to the time when I used to exercise all this off. And so then I'd still have that mental, emotional game going on in my head. And then, right before I met you, I was still very, very busy and not eating enough for my busyness. Mm-hmm. Just peckish, I'll just eat a little bit here and then
I'll drink some water.
Wondering why I'm constipated and don't feel very good. To the audience, how is your mental and emotional clarity when you have constipation? Like, it's terrible. You feel like shit.
Yeah.
And on the Pitta side,
and you are not full of shit.
You are full of shit.
Right.
And on Pitta side, like, how mentally and emotionally clear are you when you have diarrhea? Like, it's the same. Your clarity and your emotional state is really bad.
Right. Or on the Kapha side, where you can't move your bowels, like, because their digestion
I've had one bowel movement in a week or 2 weeks. Like, what?
Right. And their digestion tends to be slow anyway, which, for the record, Kaphas need to eat less frequently. Vatas, you got to get them in a routine to actually eat. Pittas ain't got no problem eating.
Yeah. I had that issue. I was like, did I eat today?
Yeah, that is never a question for me.
I didn't eat lunch today. Maybe that's why I'm hungry. And then, and then the constipation comes in, or the bloat comes in, like, oh, but I don't feel like eating because I have that problem.
Right. Because literally your digestive system is being filled with air.
Shut down.
Because you have not put anything in it.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to do something here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I notice that now. I'm like, this isn't the feeling of me not needing to eat, or it is, I do need to eat because there's just air in there.
Yes.
And I need to get something in there to actually move stuff through. So.
Well, and then when you add the mental game on top of it, if your thoughts are moving at a million miles an hour, the gut-brain link, you're literally, think of your brain from a Vata constitution standpoint as a hamster wheel that's moving like this. Well,
and I'm sorry, but teachers are on a hamster wheel most of the day.
There you go. And so that hamster wheel is going, it's literally generating air.
Yeah. Not to throw shade on other jobs, because nurses, but I've heard the comparison of teachers make more decisions than, say, a neurosurgeon does. I don't know if that's true, but
I would believe that.
Like, you got this behavior over here, and you got this, and you're thinking of the lesson plan, and then you gotta, it's
too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
So there's a lot.
So they're on a mental hamster wheel, and literally it's creating air. It's like a wind turbine, and then that gets directly linked to the gut, and it's just like, and you're like pumping your body full of air.
Yeah.
Pittas, we get frustrated. Like, this isn't going the way that it should. And
hangry.
So our mental game is friggin' hangry. Like, if I don't eat something in about 16 minutes, I'm going to be a different person, Like, this is not safe.
Here's the food. Stat.
No, literally, I was talking the other day with a client, and I forgot how it came up. We were talking about, like, what we have in our cars. I don't remember what it was. And I was like, y'all have jumper cables in your car? I got food in my car, in the glove compartment, like, ready to go. And there was...
The other day after yoga, I was like, I had to stop and get something to eat because I didn't have anything in my car. And you're like, what?
I know. Like, how is that possible? Like,
always keep something in your car.
Always in the glove compartment. So, like, some people have a flashlight. I got power bars in there, like, or protein bars. So it was funny. But the mental emotional game, you displayed it very well as it relates to Vatas. With Pittas, we get very, directed, we get hangry, and then that creates a fire in digestion which then can cause inflammatory response, which then, that seeps into the joints and the muscles and all of that. It creates fever inside of the body, which raises cortisol.
Yeah.
And as I was saying, we were talking about this yesterday, what I noticed in part with backing off, just in terms of like exercise and all of that, the intensity, because we're intense people, that lowered my cortisol levels. And because I started to feel like I was getting a little bit of brain fog. And I'm like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
So, and then I was experiencing diarrhea, and I'm like, And so then I pulled back and cooled it down. Like, I'm just going to rest. I'm going to take the time. Everything shifted and I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And I actually am getting the results it is that I want. With kappas,
Lethargy.
it's lethargy.
The mental game is like, well, I just won't do anything then because there's no point.
That's right. It's hopeless.
It's hopeless.
Or kappas can become very isolated.
Yeah.
And so then they get isolated in their brains or their minds, and it's I don't want to reach out. I don't want to connect. And so the mind gets very clouded. So as it relates to the food game, they can get very clouded from the types of foods it is that they're eating that feeds that heaviness. And then the digestion becomes very heavy. And then their desire to, they're naturally folks that want to hibernate. And so getting them out of comfort zone, that kind of thing. And so from a mental emotional standpoint, kappas have more codependencies with food. Like, I want comfort food. They're creatures of comfort. They're seeking comfort. And so when they do that, it tends to be, the ice creams and the cheeses. And
they're seeking connection, and they're getting it from their food.
That's
instead
exactly
of from
it.
people.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so there's, a whole mental game that has to do with that. So if you're Vata, you got to warm things up. If you're Pitta, you got to cool things down. If you're Kapha, you got to stimulate a little bit more, a little spice in your life. And as a result, the mind becomes clearer. Your digestion, your Agni will operate optimally, and you'll move out of dis-ease. And it all comes from food. The other thing that I do want to emphasize, since we're talking about the mental emotional game, and because we're doing the HBC challenge with FitBody, one of the things that I also put in that video, if you remember, is we have to move away from food as something that we either punish ourselves with or we reward ourselves with. Food is fuel. It's medicine, and it fuels the body so that you can do the things it is that you want to do, that you can live your purpose. That is its role. And so I know that we have like a foodie culture in the United States. And I don't think that there's necessarily anything innately wrong with that, but I think it also emphasizes a lot of the wrong things.
We've gone from an eat to live to a live to eat society.
That's exactly correct. And when we're at the gym, and if we are like on one of the machines after we lift just to, cool down and flush, you see the Food Network channel, and it's like, there's not one healthy show on that.
No.
That there's a gluttony around it. There's too much processed sugar. And nobody on those shows look healthy. They just don't.
No.
And so we have to start looking at food from the perspective of, does this suit my constitution type? Does it optimize my digestion, my Agni? Does it fuel my life so that I have high immunity, high ojas? And with that fuel, what is the mental emotional game around that? Like, do I see food as fuel, or do I see it as, if I'm not good, I'm going to punish myself with it? Or if I am good, I'm going to reward myself with it. Rewarding your body with a half a tub of ice cream is not a reward. And at the same time, punishing your body with celery and carrot sticks for a week is not supportive either. So we have to understand food is fuel, food is medicine. It's there to support you so that you can live a life of purpose. So that's
So
what I
good.
got on that.
So and that leads to the try this, not that.
Yes.
And that I wrote about food journaling.
Love this one.
Because this is
And here's a
something that-
mental emotional game too.
Yeah. So food journaling is crucial. I know it sounds kind of silly, but when you're starting out on a journey of trying to eat healthier and actually see the relationship you do have with your food, food journaling is a really key thing. And it builds inquiry instead of having just an emotional response, because you can really layer in like, okay, I had a fight with a friend or with someone, or I'm down today, so what do I reach for? And so the food journaling really kind of connects those things to, okay, when I am upset, I tend to go towards ice cream.
Yes.
And if I'm a kapha, that's kapha, or Vata, that's exceptionally bad. So like food journaling is very crucial in that way. And
It provides data.
and you can look back and say, okay, what are the patterns that I'm seeing in myself and in the foods that I eat? And the reason why I have that for a try this, not that is the inquiry. Like we go back to the, isn't that interesting? Like, isn't that interesting that every time I get upset, I eat this instead of, oh my God, I was upset and I ate that and I'm a terrible person. And then now you're more upset.
Right.
So,
And then you go into the beat up cycle, which is not helpful at all.
so inquiring about what you're doing, not beating yourself up over it or having an emotional response about it. Just again, asking that question, isn't it interesting? Then you can start to see the patterns, and then you can start to, in a sense, heal from your emotional and mental relationship with food.
Absolutely.
So
The other part of that is that in the data that it provides, it actually also innately has the solution.
yeah,
So if I food journal and I look at the patterns, when this happens, I do this, and then I feel like this. Like, so there is the situation, the action taken, and then the result. And when we look at those three things, the result, if the result is physical pain or constipation or nausea or, whatever that physical result is, we can trace it back. And then when you start doing a deep dive into your constitution type and the foods that are balancing and those that are imbalancing, that gives you even more information. So I love that one. That's a great one.
yeah,
And then our truth bomb, eating like you respect yourself is a game changer. It's not restriction, it's higher standards. Oh, I like that. It's absolutely true.
Yep.
There's, I forgot who put out this book. It's called Eat Like You Give a Shit.
Yeah, I don't remember who that
I
was.
love
either.
that.
Yeah.
Like, eat like you give a shit. Like, why would you?
About yourself,
Right.
Like is what he's
Food
what they were
is the food choices that you have are a sign of respect or disrespect for yourself. And it's not a punishment driven thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's how do you want to show up in the world?
Yeah.
And how you do one thing is how you do everything. And food is a huge part of it. It is we have to do it in order to live. And so eat like you give a shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I don't think I have any,
Okay.
really.
No thoughts.
Yeah. Just remember, Trainerized Nutrition app, Fit Body Bootcamp training, Planet Fitness renovation. Look for our dosha quiz
Yep.
on our website.
Yep. Keep going to thewomanwarrioracademy.com. We've got changes that are happening all the time. We're also going to have this coming week a new handout that I think will be very interesting for folks. In addition to the dosha quiz going up, we are also going to have a free resource that will have the top 6 herbs for perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And then on the flip side of it, the top 6 herbs for strength training.
Yeah.
All for women, gals. So stay tuned for that. I think all of you will find that very interesting. And we will do a podcast around that, the mental, emotional game with herbs and all of that kind of stuff. I think that'll be really interesting. So to provide more information. So, yeah.
Okay.
Dosha quiz, new resource coming out, all the things. Train with us, get your nutrition dialed in, because you can lift all the weights in the world. You can do all the functional fitness stuff in the world. If your diet sucks,
Can't outrun a bad diet.
you cannot outtrain a bad diet.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. So, all right, girl, I think that's it.
Okay.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you found this fascinating and interesting. If you want more information about it, please do visit our website, thewomanwarrioracademy.com. Definitely check us out on Instagram. We've got a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming out in the way of our training and nutrition focus on a lot of things. So you can find us on Instagram at Woman Warrior Academy, as well as on Facebook, the same thing. And please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Things are changing with our YouTube channel. That's really exciting. So we've got more shorts going up. Our podcasts are up there as well. So please do hit subscribe to the Woman Warrior Academy. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We are so happy that you joined us. And Jai Bhagwan, may your soul be victorious.
Is life hard? Yeah, it's really fucking hard. And you can also have the life it is that you want. You just got to work for it.